How can you avoid losing heart? How can you avoid never giving up? That's what we're going to talk about in this episode. As we all know, life is hard, especially when it comes to relationship desires. Maybe you're single and you really wish you were married, or maybe you just got out of a dating relationship and it ended badly and you're just heartbroken. Or maybe you're even someone who was married and recently got divorced and you just have a wounded heart. Wherever your situation is, there's one common theme throughout Scripture when it comes to healing and not losing heart. Now, before I tell you what this solution is, I want to set the groundwork with this statement. Complicated problems don't always require complicated solutions. That's a truth that has helped me deeply in life. I learned it while I was going through seminary and getting my master's in pastoral counseling. And that was one of the truths that they taught us about pastoral counseling. Because sometimes humans, we all do this, we like to overcomplicate our needs, overcomplicate the solutions to the problems that we have. We want to psychoanalyze everything. We want to go 10 years back into our childhoods or 20 years back into our childhoods, and we want to go back through every single relationship and analyze everything that went wrong. Think for months about this past relationship. And sometimes you need to do that, but a lot of times there's a simple solution that is exactly what you need. And that solution is prayer. And I'm not just making that up. Let me read Luke 18, verses 1 through 8. It says, "And he," meaning Jesus, "told them a parable to the effect that they ought always to pray and not lose heart." In another translation, it says he taught them a parable to show them that they should always pray and never give up. So you can see that Jesus is telling us that if you don't want to lose heart, if you don't want to give up, it all starts with prayer. Now, let me ask you a question. Is prayer too simple of a solution for you? Is it too simple to actually try? Because a lot of times we just blow it off because it seems way too simplistic. And don't get me wrong, I'm not saying that you pray a little magical prayer and everything gets better, life will be magical because you prayed a little prayer. Okay, I'm not talking about some cheesy Christian movie that, after one prayer everything changes and you become a millionaire. That's not what I'm talking about. What I'm talking about is something deeper. When you go into the presence of God, when you actually meet with God through Jesus Christ in intimate prayer, this is exactly what our hearts need. So to really appreciate Luke 18, verses 1 through 8, which is the parable that this passage, that verse 1 starts, you have to know what happened in Luke 17. In Luke 17, Jesus is warning his disciples of the terrible times that are going to be happening. He's warning them. He's saying, I'm leaving. I'm going to be crucified. I'm going to be raised and ascended. And then as I leave, people are going to persecute you. People are going to hate you. It's going to be a lot like the times of Lot and Noah. And when you read about those times in the Old Testament, you see that those were terrible times where people who didn't know God were being extremely rebellious and hateful towards God and his people. So Jesus was saying, this is what's ahead. And then he starts Luke 18, and he starts with verse 1. He tells them a parable that they ought always to pray and not lose heart. So it's a really simple message. If you're going through difficult times, you have to start with God. You have to start with connecting with him. It's a lot like going to the doctor and you're having some terrible health issue. And as the doctor is doing his assessment on you, maybe you come in and say, I want a CAT scan. I want you to check my heart. I want you to draw my blood. I want you to give me x-rays. I want you to do everything that you can to figure out what's wrong with me. And the doctor starts by saying, well, have you been drinking water? Have you been eating a healthy diet? Have you been getting sleep? And then you say, no. Well, the doctor's going to start with the simple things. He's going to start with the basics, the fundamentals of physical health. The fundamentals of spiritual health are prayer, the Bible, and Christian fellowship amongst other believers. In this video, I'm specifically focusing on prayer because that's what Luke 18 verse 1 says. So if this is something that's interesting to you, you might really enjoy one of my books called Never Quit. And in this book, I go verse by verse through the parable that we're talking about here in Luke 18 verses 1 through 8. In this book, I talk about 5 powerful prayer truths directly from this passage of scripture that can completely transform your prayer life. This is actually a great small group Bible study. Each chapter has some questions at the end to keep a good conversation going. So if you want to dive in for a deep personal study on prayer and not losing heart, or you have a small group Bible study, this might be a great resource for you. I'll leave a link in the description below. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to subscribe, give it a thumbs up. Until next time, God bless.